Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, no,
and
no,
protecting
no, no,
their interests.
Oh, I thought that would come. No. I ran for president like you. I got millions and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives. They did not come from the executives. They did not come from the executives. They did not come from the executives.
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but you have not answered. Last question.
We got to talk about old Bernie today, because Bernie Sanders is not who he claims to be, in my humble estimation, and he's not who he claims to be also in a guy by the name of Joe Rogan's estimation as well. And obviously we know Joe Rogan is a very influential figure in our society today, because Joe Rogan is honestly someone who used to be completely on the left, and you could hear it in some of the things that he says. I mean, he claimed himself that he was a big Bernie supporter. Had Bernie on the show a long time ago. You guys probably remember when he refused to have Trump on the show. Hated Trump. Called Trump, I want to say he called Trump a terrible person, and J6 was this horrible, terrible thing. You know, like, he seemed like a leftist. But at the same time, while he was on the left, he was somebody who wasn't completely clouded by the fog or the smoke, whatever you want to call it, right? By the smoke screen. He could still somewhat see through it a little bit. And obviously we have a Joe Rogan now that sees things a bit differently. And I'm going to get into a couple of those clips. But before we get into that, I want to play this clip from Dave Smith because he actually lays it out pretty perfectly. Check it out.
The dynamic is much more like the corrupt versus the not corrupt. Liars versus honesty. That's the dynamic much more than it is left versus right. And when it really matters, okay, and it comes down to it, and somebody like Bobby Kennedy is a threat to power, and you see quite literally here, the powerful coalescing around keeping this threat to power out, right? The senators keeping out the dissident potential health department secretary. When it matters, where's Bernie Sanders? He's on the side of power, being a fucking blowhard, giving this bullshit speech, trying to make Bobby Kennedy look bad. That's where Bernie Sanders falls down when it matters, as always. As always. The guy LARPs as a representative of the people. And whenever it comes down to it, when it really matters, he falls in line with power. Just like when he endorsed Hillary Clinton at the DNC in 2016. You know, he had this huge movement, this mass movement of people who hated big banks and hated the billionaire class rigging the system in their favor and hated the forever wars. And he got them to support Hillary Rodham Clinton. You know, the person who gives speeches for $500,000 to big bankers and tells them in those speeches, don't worry about what I'm saying publicly. I say one thing publicly, but I say a different thing privately to you. Now, in that moment, when it really mattered, look at what the Libertarian Party just did with Donald Trump. We got Ross Ulbricht freed because, look, we represented a voting bloc. And he wanted to court us, and he knew this was a thing that we wanted. So we were able to get a concession out of him in exchange for our support. You know, like it or no, don't like it, that's politics.
Trump is a man of his word. Trump is a man of his word. Hey, in exchange for your support, I'll make sure this guy is free once I'm president. And that's exactly what Trump did. Exactly what it did. Like it, love it, or hate it. It was a promise made and a promise kept. You don't get that from the Democrat Party, though. Just saying.
Bernie Sanders had tens of millions of Democratic voters in the Democratic primary. And then Hillary Clinton and the DNC cheated him out of it. And this came out. The WikiLeaks dump had come out by the Democratic National Convention. They knew that Hillary Clinton and the DNC had cheated against Bernie Sanders, and he had so many chips. He could have sat there and said like, well, you know what? I'm taking my voters and walking, and we will cost you this election because we don't believe in people who, we hate the big bankers and the wars and the powerful and all this shit. Or he could have at least extracted some serious concessions. I mean, if we could get Ross Ulbricht free, he could have gotten almost any damn policy promise he wanted to. And what did he do? He got none of that and just told all his supporters to go support Hillary Clinton. When it comes down to it, Bernie Sanders is not a dissident. He's always on the side of power.
That's facts. And it's mainly on the Democrat Party, but we do have some Republicans that are similar to that, right? Mitch McConnell is one big one that we all know about. And Kentucky, I believe is it Kentucky or Tennessee? I think he's out of Kentucky, a senator out of Kentucky. But Kentucky, vote this mother lover out, 2026, all right? He's up for re-election in the midterms. We'll see if he actually goes through with it. I don't see how. But who knows? These people, they love power. So Kentucky, y'all know what to do. Get this old fella out of there. But yeah, these guys like Bernie are not who they claim to be. They talk a big game. They say a bunch of stuff that makes you feel nice and warm and fuzzy inside, but when it actually comes down to putting actions behind their words, they fold like a wet piece of paper. They fold up, and they're absolute liars. And I'm happy that somebody with the following like Joe Rogan realizes this now, because there were a lot of people. I'm telling you, a lot of people who loved Bernie Sanders. There's still some people who love Bernie Sanders, but now the veil is kind of falling off from that, and that people are realizing Bernie's he's the same thing as these other establishment Democrats. He just talked a little bit better. He went a little bit further in what he was saying, but when it actually comes down to standing on business, he doesn't at all. Not even a little bit.
It's amazing to watch all these left-wing people suddenly, Bernie Sanders making a post about how Donald Trump is trying to silence independent media was the wildest fucking gaslighting I think I've ever seen from a politician. Independent media? You mean fucking CBS? You mean CBS that edited that Kamala Harris interview to make it look like she had a really good point?
100%. And then I don't know if you caught Alex Soros reposting this claim that basically you have an unelected cabal wielding power. I mean, that's
you.
Yeah,
that's you, Alex. That's your dad. This is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very strange historical moment.
Also, it's like you haven't addressed any of the exposed corruption. All you're talking about is the horrors of dismantling this amazing organization. What about all the shit that they've uncovered? There's not even a counter argument. Like, no, we need to fund gender fluid dance in fucking Turkey. like, what are you talking about? We need $200 million for Starbucks Keurig cups.
And that's the interesting thing, because I made a point about that the other day in a video. And I said that, notice that these Democrats, whenever they come out here and they speak out against Doge or Elon, they never make the argument that, hey, yeah, these funds are being spent in some terrible ways. We need to clean this up. It's always an argument of something that's completely different. Like, Elon's going to steal your social security numbers. Elon's going to steal your grandma's money. He's going to steal your money and our money. And it's like, bro, Elon is worth like $400 billion. Elon is worth almost $500 billion. Think about, let that sink in for a moment. Elon is worth almost $500 billion. And he's going to steal somebody's money? Like that statement is so dumb, it's funny. The guy who's worth almost $500 billion, he's going to be stealing from regular folks like you and I. Yeah, he's going to be raiding some bank accounts. Like that doesn't even make sense. It's so foolish. It's laughable, absolutely laughable. But like I said, excuse me, I have the hiccups now. Oh, man. It's so refreshing to have somebody like Joe Rogan with the following of Joe Rogan and the notoriety of Joe Rogan, for somebody like him to be coming out and saying this out loud. It's obviously something that we all know, right? Something that we all see. But somebody with that kind of following saying it out loud, it's refreshing, because it seems like for 4 years, for the better part of 4 years, we weren't really getting that. You know, people were just kind of silent about it, or gave like little hints, but didn't really go all the way. Like, yeah, this is probably corruption, but you know, they would tiptoe around it. But Joe Rogan just flat out, nah, these guys are full of it. As well as Elizabeth Warren. He went in on her too.
I don't know if you saw this, but Elizabeth Warren got confronted, and it's on Twitter this morning. She got confronted about the amount of money that she's received from pharmaceutical drug companies. She said she's never received any money from pharmaceutical drug companies and never received any monies from any PACs. And then, of course, underneath it, Community Notes strikes again. And, of course, she received millions.
Yeah.
She's a fucking liar.
Well, and it's an arms race.
Yeah.
How can pharma cloak the money that it's giving so that there's plausible deniability at the point that Elizabeth Warren is confronted, or Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders was hilarious. Only 1.5 billion. Only 1.5 million out of 200 million. Only 1.5.
Yep, that's what I saw
First
as
he
well.
tried to say nothing. Only the hardworking people of this country giving money.
Well, I don't think.
Hey, that impression was spot on. That was pretty damn good. That was pretty damn good. You know, and it's just interesting how, you know, these folks like Elizabeth Warren, as well as Bernie Sanders, they're all coming out here with this fear-mongering thing about Elon and Doge and, oh my goodness, blah, no, that can't happen, as well as the RFK Jr. situation, right? No, we can't appoint RFK Jr. No, he's going to make some of these companies pay. Meanwhile, some of these companies, meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are getting money from these same companies. And Bernie Sanders' excuse was, well, it's coming from the employees. Well, why? Let's play that out though, right? So, Bernie, why are a bunch of employees from these pharmaceutical companies turning to you and paying you, donating to you? Why? What do they see in you that's different than everybody else? What do they see in the Democrat Party that they turn to y'all and donate money to all of you, including Elizabeth Warren? Why? Do they know something that their executive told them about? We got to make sure Democrats win, because otherwise your jobs might be at risk. I don't know. I'm just saying. And as far as the Doge situation, it's also quite interesting, because Elizabeth Warren, not long ago, was saying stuff like this.
You know, when that much money disappears, it's usually because somebody broke some laws somewhere.
Interesting. When that kind of money disappears, it's usually because somebody broke some laws somewhere. But now, all of a sudden, Doge is like this terrible thing because Elon is uncovering all of this corruption and all of this money that's really been, it's been titled that it's going to this place or that place, but in reality, it's been going to somebody's offshore account. You know, like a family member, a spouse, or a close friend. Or even, I saw something earlier where there might be somebody getting caught with something because they've got, to the tune of about $30 million in an offshore account. That's been recently uncovered, but I don't know. We shall see. Hey, listen, if it actually turns out, which to me, it sounds like it is, but if it actually turns out that these politicians have been lining their pockets with our money by saying, hey, 50 million is going to Gaza for condoms, but in reality, it didn't go to anywhere for condoms. It went around that and back to somebody else's account that's close to one of these politicians. Oh yeah. First off, we're seizing all assets from the politician and whoever the money went to, right? To try to get around, being discovered. If that's a family member, a close friend, a spouse, a child, I don't care. We're seizing all assets from the politician and who the money went to, okay? Selling all of those assets and giving that money back to the American people. And then the politician, as well as the person that the money went to, they're getting put in prison. That's what I personally think should happen. And that's why I think the Democrats are squealing like a bunch of cornered animals. But what do y'all think? Let me know. Peace and love. I'm out.